dozens of survivors of sexual abuse taking legal action against a former St. Louis doctor. The lawsuit targets SSM's DePaul Hospital and former physician Dr. Craig Spiegel. Here's First Alert 4 investigator David Amalotti.
This lawsuit follows two others filed over the summer alleging horrific crimes and institutional negligence, claiming Dr. Spiegel preyed on vulnerable patients, including children, for nearly a decade. Their attorneys tell First Alert 4 investigates that despite repeated warnings and reports of Spiegel's actions, the hospital failed to act, allowing Spiegel to abuse his position of trust to commit egregious acts on hospital premises.
I am the voice for those who are afraid to come forward due to what others may think.
Fighting back tears, Mallory, with her sister at her side, says she represents those ashamed of their past.
I'm not going to ask you for what exactly happened, but can you talk about what Dr. Spiegel took from you?
My childhood. He changed the way I looked at healthcare, at doctors. It was a fine line between what was allowable and what was too much.
She says she is one of more than 30 survivors joining together to file a new lawsuit with the help of attorneys Ben Crump and Kayla Onder this week.
Let this case serve as a warning. A policy on paper is not anything if it's not enforced.
Shocking details in a lawsuit filed in St. Louis County Thursday. Allegations including specific instances where Dr. Spiegel forcibly assaulted patients, many of whom were minors.
If this was your child, wouldn't you want everybody held accountable?
Some don't even know they were sexually abused. They've been seeing him since they were a child. They may have not seen anyone else.
Victims report being fondled, forced to perform sexual acts, and subjected to Dr. Spiegel's depraved behavior in examination rooms, hospital parking lots, even in his vehicle on hospital grounds.
Those acts were allowed to continue week after week, month after month, year after year, victim after victim. And SSM Health turned a blind eye.
Crump says the hospital's inaction persisted despite reports from staff, police investigations, and complaints to state and federal authorities.
This has to be condemned. It can't be condoned, SSM Health.
SSM Health says the allegations directed towards the organization are unfounded. In a statement, they say, quote, "We are deeply saddened by the unfounded allegations directed towards SSM Health," going on to say, given the potential litigation, we're unable to comment further. They also claim that SSM Health never employed Dr. Spiegel, saying he leased a space through a third party adjacent to the hospital.
We do know that he had staff privileges. They pulled up to the building, they saw SSM's name, and they trusted that he was affiliated and he was a reputable doctor because of what they put out.
There are other victims believed to be staying silent, which is why Mallory says she has to share her story.
What you endured is important and shouldn't be brushed under the rug. Abusers should be held accountable for their actions, and it starts with us.
There is also a criminal case involving Dr. Spiegel. It started back in March. Spiegel was charged with 17 counts of illegal distribution of controlled substances and 6 counts of making a false statement related to healthcare matters. Court documents allege he distributed the substances to at least 25 people in exchange for sexual favors and cash. And according to those court documents, 1,200 prescriptions for controlled medications were issued. We did reach out to Spiegel's attorneys for an interview. They have yet to respond. We will continue to track developments in this case. For First Alert 4 Investigates, I'm David Amalotti.